I work in Galena, and I work at this resort, and you could work there, you could get a job there. And he was right, I had to get out. But where I didn't need to go was the one place more rural than the town I was already living in. I don't know if you know Galena, Illinois. It's where people go to ski if they're afraid of Colorado. Like, I've lived on streets steeper than the Black Diamond out in Galena. But he worked at a resort, and I interviewed, and I got the job, and yay. Thank you. That's right. They hired the 19-year-old who had been, devastated systematically by the government and psychopaths. So their hiring practices were top notch. So they hired me, and as a reward to myself, I decided to go buy some tobacco. So I went down to the tobacco store in Galena. The other thing about Galena is it's like real fancy. Like, it's real rural, but it's real fancy. Lots of antique stores and like specialty cheese places. No place you can buy toilet paper. But fucking Yankee Candles, you are set. So I go into the tobacco store, and that's where I meet Andy. And I don't know why I say what I say to him. I don't know if it's because I wanted to be someone else, or if it was because I was fragmented in some way, or if it was because I was 19 and all 19-year-olds are kind of sociopaths. But what I said was, do you have any Turkish ovals? Because I would kill for a fag. And he says exactly what I want him to say, which is, are you from England? I'm like, well, yeah. Did you notice? Is it possible you noticed? Oh, well, yeah. So we start talking, and so I tell him my entire life story. That I'm from Portsmouth, England, which I picked because I had read it in a Dick Francis novel that was a city in England. And I thought if I said London, he might know some streets in London, which I did not. And if he was like, oh yeah, have you ever been down to Worthington and Worcestershire? And be like, oh yeah, it's great. And be like, those are parallel. I wanted to avoid that. So I was from Portsmouth. So we spent the whole day, like all of a sudden, this 32-year-old guy managing his dad's tobacco store and this 19-year-old kid pretending to be British, formed this great friendship. And it's like we're like Milo and Otis. If they were damaged people who sought each other out, not a dog and cat crossing the country. And so we, first off, I didn't know Turkish ovals were unfiltered. So I'm smoking unfiltered cigarettes all day, which clouded my judgment. But that is my excuse. They were unfiltered, so I'm pretending to be British. That's fine. So we're smoking and chatting, and he's telling me his entire life story, and I'm telling him English Dave's entire life story. His stories are true. Mine are not. I'm talking about my dad, who's the Irish barrister, who divides his time between Portsmouth and London, and my sister, who lives in France, with my niece, who's growing up to be just a little bit too French, is what I said. She's going to be in a shampoo commercial, like French shampoo. And I didn't know how I felt about it, and he gave me some really good advice about letting go. Really good advice. They're different people every day. You just got to go with it. And my mom, who was a neurotic agoraphobic, who was smothering me and made me leave England to come to America. And so most of that wasn't true. My mom's not agoraphobic. I'm probably not going to do that joke again. I'm glad you appreciated it, though. So then I left, and I went back, and I found out later that I got the job, and I thought, well, he's not going to recognize me, which is the fucking dumbest thought I've ever had. He's not going to recognize me, because so many people strike up surprising friendships with British people in the course of their day-to-day life. Like, that happens so regularly. How could he picture me in that constant, threat of people? So I get the job, and what I should have done is just never go back to that tobacco shop again. Just get my cigarettes at the gas station. But I did. I went back, and the first thing he said to me was, "English Steve, you got the job!" I was like, yeah, I did. And so I started hanging out there all the time, which was really dumb. But I got addicted to the character. I got addicted to being that interesting. And I made certain rules to myself. Like, I would never tell people that I was British. They had to notice my accent and ask, because that was more honest. And I would only tell a lie about my personal life or my story if it was more interesting than the truth, which was always the case. So then after hanging out a couple of weeks, he says to me, you should just work here. Like, you're here all the time, cigars, you should just work here. And so I said, I can't. It was such a pain just getting all the paper. And if this accent sounds terrible to you, it was worse then. And then there are just some things people want to believe. So I said, I can't. It was just such a pain getting the paperwork worked out. And he goes, I'll just pay you under the table. And I was like, all right. So then I started working there 2 days a week and being British for that period of time. So then I went back to college. Well, I went to college for the first time. I went to Northern Illinois University. Any Huskies in the audience?
No. I was a Husky in Nebraska.
Okay. That's a Huskers.
No, in Aurora, you're a Husky. I'll talk to you later.
So, you all seem to have much more prestigious degrees than I do, so that's good. Good. So I went back to college, and when you go from being this small town character who everyone stops to talk to and makes a fuss over, to being just some guy, kind of a letdown. By which I mean an enormous letdown. So, winter break, I went back to Galena just to feel special again. And we had a great time, and we drank a lot, and he said, you should come back to work for me again next summer. And I had come up with a plan, because I knew this was going to happen, and my plan was to throw up an obstacle he could have no answer to, which was, I really left my place in a terrible state, and I don't think my landlord would ever let me take it again. And so he cut that Gordian knot of deceit with this, great blade of simplicity that he possessed. And he said, hey, you can just live with me. So I'm thinking, well, I could be special again. And I get paid under the table. And I wouldn't have any rent. But I would have to spend all day, every day, as this character. So what I should have said was, I'll think about it. What I did say was, all right. How are we doing on time?
If you're ready to wrap up, you can, but...
What's the time? So?
I'll let you go long.
Okay. All right. Well, married privilege. Well, I guess I'll reiterate. I'm fine now. And that's really the thing to take away.